We're going to break away briefly from our national coverage in New York to bring you news from here in Washington on these events.
As you can see, Megan McGrath is live at the Pentagon from Columbia Pike, very near the Pentagon. Megan, what can you tell us about the latest happening there?
Joe, I can't hear you. I'm assuming that you can hear and see me at this point. We are on Columbia Pike. If you take a look behind my shoulder, you can see the south side of the Pentagon. Actually, just moments before this happened, after the World Trade Center incident, we were headed from a different location to National Airport. We were on 395 when all of a sudden we heard a boom and we saw this huge fireball rise from the Pentagon. We knew immediately that something terribly wrong had happened, and we made our way to this location. We originally pulled up, there's a gas station nearby, had a really good view of the south side of the Pentagon. Smoke, flames, it was just a real mess, very, very shocking. And of course, people were running around. The Navy Annex is located nearby. There was all kinds of smoke in the area. People were very, very confused. There was a construction crew nearby. They didn't understand what happened, and people were just running toward the scene, trying to see if they could be of any assistance, trying to figure out what happened. Now, I have an eyewitness here.
Is a very high priority of this hospital. And the staff have been doing a heroic job in terms of responding.
This morning when she saw what happened, can you tell me, you say that you saw a plane actually strike the side of the Pentagon. Tell me exactly what you saw.
I saw a plane going down, big plane, commercial liner type, going down full speed and just inside the side of the Pentagon. Obviously, it was going in the Pentagon purposely. And we were driving down Columbia Pike, and it just flew right over us, as I said, full speed. And I told my husband, it's going in the Pentagon, it's going in the Pentagon. And then we heard the huge crash, saw this fireball and flame and smoke. And
so you actually saw the plane impact the side of the building?
Yes, I did.
Just one plane?
Just one plane.
Tell me a little bit about the size of the plane. Did you see any commercial markings, any markings at all on the plane?
I didn't see any marking because it was, we just saw the underneath portion of it. So, and it just, as I said, was going full speed. So we didn't have time really to see anything. Plus with the trees, you know, maybe if I could have looked at it longer, maybe I would have seen something. But with the trees there, the trees line, we didn't see any type of marking. But it was a big plane, maybe 737. My husband said 747, but I'm not positive. I don't know for sure. But it was big. Definitely the kind of plane you get on when you want to fly to LA or wherever.
Now, we've been here probably about the same length of time as you have. I have heard a total of 3 booms, that initial boom, and then I heard 3 less large booms, but booms nonetheless. Have you heard the same thing?
Yes, I did. Smaller explosions. Maybe it's inside the building, some gas lines exploding or something. I don't know. But we heard the other explosions. I don't see any other smoke anywhere, so I suppose it's from inside the building.
Okay, Isabel James, thank you very much for joining us. So there is a certain amount of chaos. From what we can kind of gather from here, it looks like they have let everybody out of the Navy Annex. There are just a lot of people wandering in the parking lot, and as you can see over there, a lot of them sitting up on the ridge and just watching as emergency crews arrive on the scene and do their job. And of course, everybody is trying to piece together exactly what happened. I mean, this was very unexpected. I can just give our example. We were just driving by, just happened to be in the same location as the Pentagon, when all of a sudden there was this big boom. It was quite sudden, it was quite loud, there was a fireball. We couldn't actually see the Pentagon itself when the explosion occurred because we were up on the highway. We saw the cloud of smoke and the fireball rise above the freeway, and we knew what direction it was coming from. We knew it was in the vicinity of the Pentagon, and that's when we arrived here on the scene. Should say that as soon as we got here, there were flames again on the south side of the Pentagon, and a short time later, I would say, we heard, and these are approximate times, we heard roughly 10 minutes later a smaller explosion. Didn't see anything unusual. The building was already on fire and was already smoking, so I don't know whether it was perhaps a gas line inside the building or something else entirely. But we have, since the initial explosion, have heard 2 smaller explosions, but we just don't have any information about what exactly happened there. But you just heard from the eyewitness. In fact, she's the second person that I have talked to who says that they saw a plane actually slam into the side of the Pentagon. And of course, in light of what happened in New York this morning, certainly is an interesting turn of events. But in terms of the rescue effort, we have been seeing emergency personnel arriving on the scene ever since this happened. You can see there appears to be, I don't know, John, can you see there's a some military personnel up here on the ridge. This ridge right here, a lot of people have been coming out of the annex, and a lot of cars have been stopping on the highway, and people have been getting out of their cars, and they've been up on this ridge because you get a pretty good view of what's going on. And you can see that the military personnel are now telling them to get off the ridge, and they're going to be clearing out the area. We're going to try to stay here to keep you on top of what's going on and what we can see from our vantage point, but we'll have to wait and see what the military tells us to do. Back to you all.
Okay, thanks very much, Megan. And I want to give you this Apparently, a portion of the Pentagon has collapsed, according to the Associated Press. Also, according to the Associated Press, this morning, there is a report that General Richard Myers, the vice chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, said that prior to the crash into the Pentagon, military officials had been notified that another hijacked plane had been heading from New York area to Washington. He said he assumed that the hijacked plane from New York to Washington was the one that hit the Pentagon. But again, you can see a portion of the Pentagon there has collapsed in that very dramatic picture.
Meanwhile, all government buildings in the District of Columbia, including the State Department and the White House, have been evacuated. As we've heard, all commercial traffic throughout the U.S. has been halted. Let's go to Cheryl Johnson, who is with Metro, who can tell us what these events, what kind of effect they've had on Metro trains and buses throughout our area. Good morning, Cheryl.
Good morning. So far, we have closed our Pentagon Metro station, which is, of course, nearest the Pentagon itself. And in addition to that, we're not sending trains across the Yellow Line Bridge. So we're using our buses to do what we call a bus bridge, or take people from L'Enfant Plaza Station to Pentagon City, because, again, we are not sending trains across the Yellow Line Bridge. And, of course, at the Pentagon Station, we're doing a bus bridge from Arlington Cemetery to Pentagon City.
Okay, so if you wanted to get to National Airport from the district, you'd take a bus from the Pentagon Station to, how does that work?
You would take a bus from either the L'Enfant Plaza Station to Pentagon City,
okay,
and then continue your commute, and that's the Yellow Line. Or if you're on the Blue Line, you would get off at Arlington Cemetery to catch a bus, and then you would go past the Pentagon Station by bus, and then get off at Pentagon City to continue your commute on the Blue Line to get to National Airport.
Okay, of course, once again, all airports across the country have been shut down by the FAA.
Well, if that's the case, then I'm sure people are attempting to just use the Metro to get to where they need to get to at this point, because I understand the federal government has released employees, and I can look out my window and see gridlock on the streets already, traffic gridlock.
I'm sure. Thank Cheryl Johnson, thank you very much.
And listen, be aware that, it's very hard to get through on the phone, so if you call us and you're not able to get through, that's because so many of the circuits, both cell phones
Excuse me,
and regular
Cheryl,
phones,
just a moment. We're just getting a report from the Associated Press that a car bomb has exploded outside the State Department. We are just hearing this from the Associated Press, a car bomb exploding outside the State Department here in Washington. We have no details of that, but we'll bring them to you as they come in to us. Let's go back to Megan McGrath, who is near the Pentagon off Columbia Pike. Megan?
Yeah, if you take a look behind me, you can see in the last few minutes we've actually seen that section of the Pentagon where the explosion took place. It has actually collapsed in a rather large section. You can see that the smoke is still billowing from the area. We still are seeing some flames coming from inside the building, and the whole section has literally collapsed upon itself. That will give you an idea of just how tremendous this explosion was. Just to be able to do this kind of damage to such a secure building, it just really indicates how powerful this was. And again, we were driving by the area, and you felt kind of a tremor as you were driving by. You could feel a disturbance in the air, and then that's when we looked over, and that's when we saw the fireball and saw the damage that was done. Now, we are being told by military officials to clear the area. There were a lot of people, a lot of folks in cars, a lot of employees from from the Navy Annex who actually left their building, abandoned their cars in the street, and were up on this ridge taking a look at the damage and watching the rescue effort. All of those people are being cleared out of the area at this point. And that's really all we can tell you. But if you just take a look at the side of that building, it really is quite dramatic. And of course, emergency crews are here on the scene trying to secure the situation. But at this point, they are evacuating everybody out of this area. Back to you.
Thanks,
Thank you,
Megan.
Megan. As we heard from Cheryl Johnson, there are massive traffic jams around as we continue to follow the impact of this here in Washington, D.C.
Apparently all federal employees